What's going on, guys? Hopefully I don't get any feedback. I have a new setup here. What's going on, guys? Welcome to Ignite Thursday. I do have a new setup here. I am using different software, so I'm just trying to make sure everything is good. There shouldn't be feedback. Should be ready to rock and roll. Thursday night, welcome to Ignite Thursday. What I'm ultimately doing here on Ignite Thursday, if you guys haven't been following me for the Underdog Experiment, I was typically going live on Monday and Friday. The reasoning for that was essentially setting goals on Monday, talking them, having some talking points for the week, some goals for the week. Then I kind of transitioned on Friday, was kind of, I essentially maintained a log on that Monday live. And then what I would do is on Friday, we'd have the recap and go over everything. I didn't want to end it there. I wanted to start doing Thursdays live and come on here and try to help you guys, right? I did say I was going to start writing a book, and I have started doing that. And as I'm going through the book, as I'm essentially going along in my journey, right, in personal development, because it's a journey that never stops, I wanted to come on here and help you guys, right? Help you guys determine what I've learned, right? Because I have been through a lot, and I would like to help you guys through those transition periods while I'm continuing to learn and help teach you guys along the way. So that's why I'm here. Again, if you guys have any questions at all, you can always leave them in the chat. I'm more than willing to help. But again, that's essentially why we are doing the Thursday nights. I will be doing these for a while and continuing doing this, right? And helping you guys grow as well as essentially, helping with my normal videos, right? So that's all I'm really doing. Also, remember to hit the like button and to subscribe if you haven't done so already. We're trying to get the word out, trying to get everybody to help everybody, right? The best that we can. And I myself, I don't like to see anybody else struggle, so that's why I'm here. I want to help people out as much as possible. So that's why we're doing this. This is why we're doing these Ignite Thursdays, to help as many people as possible. That being said, also, I do have a video request. If you guys at all have any questions you want me to answer, do a video on, I do have a link, email down in the description, discoverignite1@gmail.com. You can email me there. Again, it can be completely anonymous. I can make a video essentially answering any of the questions that you do have. And with that being said, if you guys do not follow me on Instagram as well, you can hit me up on Instagram. I did do a video early on Sunday telling people about emotional ignition, right? Now you hear that word and you're probably like, well, what is emotional ignition, Marcus? Well, that's a good thing, because I created this word because it is something that is going to drive you, right? I wanted to, looking back at the Underdog Experiment, one of the things, especially like in the summary, I talked about how, I wish I would have essentially had a better compass going into that, right? And a lot of times I talk about this, you shouldn't let anything stop you from going forward, right? As soon as you have that thought, you need to start executing on it, or you'll procrastinate. And so that's why I started the Underdog Experiment. And then going through it, I started refining it when I was going along the way. Like, I started adding, going through all the videos that I was adding, right? On the live sessions, I was adding more to it, right? I was trying to essentially point you in the right direction, right? Have the compass to help guide you along the way. And in doing so, looking back at it in a summary, this is why I want to start. It's like, where do you start, right? Like, you want to change your life, but how do you do that? And one of the hardest things to do is I can come on here and tell you, you need to do this, you need to do that. It's not going to help you, right? You have to make the choice yourself. And so that's why I wanted to start doing these Thursdays, start out this Thursday with emotional ignition to help you guys get along that journey, right? To flip that switch, right? Trying to give you perspective, because a lot of time what it is you need a perspective shift to see the reality of the situation. And when you see that, then you can determine, okay, well, I need to make this choice, or else, this is going to happen. A lot of times, something is going to happen, but you want that immediate gratification, right? And so, you get that dopamine hit, right? We live in a society where you want the dopamine hit, right? You get in that dopamine hit, and when you don't, on a video, you'll click off of that video, right? And so that's what's important, is to essentially try to find where it is, right? Go down to the core. And that's what I've been, when I started writing this part in the book, I'm trying to really drill down into how you can do this, right? Because again, you need a perspective shift. If you don't have a lot of experiences in life, you're not going to get that perspective shift, right? It's either going to come into your life one way or another, whether that's, through divorce, whether that's through a failed test, whether that's, through an accident, one of these things are going to happen. It's going to change your perspective. And then you will finally make that decision to shift, right? Or maybe it's even your kids, right? Kids are a big one. Kids are a big motivator. But nonetheless, I think before you do any of this stuff, right, you have to know where you're piloting the ship, right? You have to be aware of it. You can't blindly go. You can start going and have all the motivation you want, but if you don't know your destination, you're going to get lost, right? You're going to lose motivation and you're like, why am I even doing this, right? And so you're going to second guess yourself. And I'm sorry, I can't change the window and do a bunch of flashy stuff with a stream like I've been doing. Again, this is new streaming software, so I'm trying to nail this down a little bit, but nonetheless, so you just get to see me for right now until I get it worked out. Also working on a new stage area as well for you guys as well. So trying to improve these along the way. So not only improving myself, improving your viewing entertainment. So with that being said, right, you need to have goals. I mean, everybody talks about goals. Everybody knows what a goal is. There's no point in me getting in there, but a lot of times we have these goals and we determine that it is too big for us to achieve, or we believe we can't achieve these goals. And so ultimately, what we need to concentrate on is to realize that you can achieve the goals, right? You are in the mindset that you believe something about yourself to be true. And I've talked about this a lot, especially in the back end of the underdog experiment, was the fact that, you have this belief about yourself that is stopping you from making the effort to go after a specific goal, right? There are many times, right? Like I've failed a test for programming. I wanted to be a programmer before I even started college and all these things, right? And I failed it. And so that deterred me. I was upset. I went in telecommunications. It's not what I wanted to do, but I did, and I enjoyed it. I ended up, before I got in the military, I went back in school, right? Went back to college. I got my degree when I was in my 30s, right? And got my degree and then went into programming, right? And I've proven, right? I've been in programming for a couple of years now, right? So that's ultimately what's important is to not have a belief system that is not serving you, right? And to realize that these beliefs that you have that are holding you back, you have to eliminate them. And so when coming up with these goals, right, don't limit the goals by a belief that you're holding. If you do that, you realize that you're not going to be able to dream the things that you want to, right? And, everybody says that thing, you dream, but it would be whatever you want. Again, if you're my height, you're not going to be a basketball player, right? There's physical limitations to some of these dreams, but, right, a good majority of it you can achieve, right? Getting in better health, that's something you can achieve, right? Getting smarter, opening a business, these all things you can achieve, right? Overcoming depression, overcoming all these other things, they can be achieved. You have to limit the belief, stop the belief system that is limiting you to believe that, right? And so in saying that, again, you got to have goals. You got to have a goal first. You have one goal. You don't want to have multiple goals and be too spread out. When you start getting the process down, getting the system down, it becomes easier and you can pick up more things along the way, right? And that's what's important, is that you have to turn off the belief system. You're going to create a goal, right? Maybe it is health. Maybe you just want to get healthier, right? Maybe it's just you want to get out of depression. Maybe you want to build your confidence, right? These are the things that can be achieved. And right now you need baby steps. And a lot of times confidence is a big one. Confidence is the thing that will hold you back because you have imposter syndrome, right? That's one of the biggest things. And I can tell you, transitioning to different fields throughout my life, right? Going from telecommunications to programming, I can't tell you how big of, imposter syndrome I had. And I had it for a long time. And doing a lot of these other different things, right? You're going to have it. You feel uncomfortable. It's because your body is trying to reprogram this new routine into your life. And if you're not feeling uncomfortable, you're not growing. And if you're not growing, right, you're stagnant and you're only going to see the same results. And this is why I tell you, you have to change your beliefs. So you have goals and you have to realize that, hey, you know what? I can achieve this goal. It's going to take effort. So you're going to take that goal and then you need to establish, well, okay, to achieve that goal, how am I going to get to that goal? You need to break it down so much so, because a lot of times our goals are so big, right? You have to break it down into a daily task. What's your daily objective, right? What are you supposed to do every single day to make sure that those days will add to weeks, will add to months, will add to years, and you will achieve that goal? How will you do that, right? So this is kind of some pre-planning you have to do before all this stuff. It's going to take a little bit of work on your behalf because you may not know exactly what you want, right? And this is is something you need to do. Maybe you need some new perspective. Maybe you just need to get out, right, and experience some more things. You experience some more things, you get new perspective, and you're like, okay, that's it. That's what I want to do. Okay, well, to achieve that, how am I going to achieve that? Well, to achieve that, you're going to find your daily goal. And this daily goal is something that you need to make a priority. And this is something I slowly started writing last night, was the fact that you have to be selfish. Now, a lot of people are like, okay, be selfish. I can't go out. And a lot of people think as being selfish, like hoarding stuff for themselves or going out and buying something for only themselves, only think of themselves, right? But what I'm saying is you need to shift it in the fashion to where you want to make that goal, that daily task, a priority. No matter what happens, right? The world will be burning. You're going to make sure that that task is done. You're going to be selfish for yourself on that task. That's what you need to do. You need to focus on that task and make sure no matter what, you're going to take the responsibility to make sure that that decision that you're making during the day to execute on the objective is being accomplished. And every day, without thought, you're going to execute on it. If it pops into your head, you're going to execute on it. And this is ultimately what's going to help. This is what's going to help you execute on those things. And the biggest thing here is, you know how I said you got to remove thought. The biggest problem is changing your routine. You have to think, right? You have to realize that you are using that conscious side of your brain to make this change, right? You're essentially trying to file this into your subconscious, right? The autopilot that runs most of your day. And to be able to do that, you're going to have to use your conscious side. So you're going to have to use a little bit more of that thought process to get you there, to file it away so it becomes automatic. And that's when it becomes easier. That's where you hear about all these habits and everything. You got to go, whatever it is, 60 days or something. It's because you're trying to file it away into that subconscious side of it where it's automatic. It all becomes automatic. It's never easy, but it becomes a lot easier. It requires a lot less active side of your brain and more subconscious side of your brain. So you have to realize the science behind it is this is what you're trying to do, right? Is trying to essentially just execute on a thing. So you're trying to create a system that is simple and executable, right? You're setting yourself up for success. You're trying to make sure it is as simple as possible. Again, you've done the prep work. You have that goal, that big goal that you want. You have that daily task. It is your responsibility to make the decision every single day and realize that, okay, this is all I got to execute today. Let's make sure it happens. So with that being said, right now you know your daily toil. You're starting to execute every single day. You know that's your responsibility to do that. And then this is where emotional ignition comes in, right? Is because a lot of times we need a backstop. And excuse the train. Just let that happen for a second. My apologies. But nonetheless, right, you need that backstop, because a lot of times you can be like, well, you start getting in your mind and you realize that, hey, you're going to talk yourself out of what you're supposed to do. A lot of times you may not have time, right? Life happens. I understand life happens, but again, your responsibility, make sure that single task happens, because without change, nothing will change. And so you're trying to bust out of that routine. You're trying to reprogram that subconscious by using the active side of your brain to do this, right? And so again, emotional ignition, your backstop. This is important because you need to understand too that we are emotional creatures, right? We are driven by emotion. Emotion is what changes your perspective. right? You have to realize that emotion is really what's going to help you change your perspective on things, right? You think about some of the most emotional times in your life, whether that is a really low time in your life or a really high time in your life, right? Low time, maybe you got a divorce. That's a really low time. You feel like trash. You feel like you have absolutely no value, right? Then you can take the other side of it, the flip side of it, you have a child, right? It's a very emotional time. Your perspective shifts at that point in your life. You realize, I have responsibility now, right? So these different times in your life. You need to pick one in particular to you, and this is going to be your driver. This is going to be your backstop, emotional ignition, right? So when you are telling yourself, well, the math nerd, does listening to an audio recording of my thoughts help with objectivity? Yes, it does. I would believe it would. I think a lot of times you need to log a lot of this stuff and realize my thoughts help with objectivity. Yes, I think you need to write down those goals. You need to write down your thought process and really allow yourself to determine what it is that you ultimately want, right? Is that what you're asking? But to continue with this, right, is I don't know how delayed this is, so I don't know if you're writing the math nerd or not, but okay, great. So getting back into it, right, the emotional ignition for your backstop. So when you are, again, you have that voice that's telling you, hey, well, I can do all these other things. Why am I going to waste my time on this? Well, I got this, and this planned out, right? And so you start getting to that thing you procrastinate, and this is where you're trying to stop. So if trying to eliminate thought is not helping you, what I wanted you to do is find that emotional ignition, right? Now, there's several different ways to do this, right? What is your motivator, right? You may actually feel like, for myself, right, when I first got divorced, like one of the biggest emotional ignitions, right, was the fact that I was in really bad health. That was my number one priority, right? And I didn't like the way I felt, right? I was disgusted with myself. I didn't like anything about myself. And I used that as emotional ignition, right? So every time I started thinking about the times that I'd come home, right, I'd be exhausted from coming home from work and be like, I really don't want to work out, right? The next thing I would think about is I started talking myself out, right? I started giving my ways out. And that's what you want to be aware of. That's another thing to be conscious of, is if you can be conscious of your thought process, right? That's extremely important too. And that's also something else I'm trying to work on in the book as well, is trying to be more self-aware, auditing yourself. Again, it is something you have to work on. You have to be aware of. You have to exercise essentially that muscle to get it to where you're more conscious of what you're doing. You're more conscious of your thought process and what's going on. So when you catch yourself talking about all the other options you have, right? This is where you use your emotional ignition and you start thinking about why you're doing it, right? You start thinking about that emotion tied into why you started doing it. And there are different ways to actually program this, right? There's a couple different ways I've come across this. And one of them being, there's NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming, which is typically you relive that moment, right? You relive that moment, the thoughts and the feelings. You definitely want to hit on the feelings, right? The emotion that's going through your body in that specific time. And then there's different ways of doing it. One of the ways I typically did it was essentially my middle finger and my thumb. Every time I thought about that emotion, I would pinch my fingers together, my middle finger and my thumb, and I would think about that emotion in that exact time, right? And this is, again, something you have to condition yourself, that every time you make that touch, you think about that emotion. And so this is your emotional backstop. So why are you doing it, right? Put yourself into that position, that place, either you were down and why you were doing it, or that time you were up, right? And why you were doing it. And so you were essentially programming your mind by having this touch and realizing that, hey, this is why I'm doing it, right? And so that's one of the ways you can help program yourself, right? Again, sorry for the train. But so that's one way of doing it, is helping you with a backstop that way. Another way of doing this is through actually sitting down. If you are a meditator, I know a lot of people, again, sorry for the loud honking. Another way of actually doing this as well is to, if you like to meditate, right, or do visualization, this does help as well. What you can do, one thing I did learn to do is to go into that moment, right? That moment where you've essentially had a bad experience, or a trigger, right? What is the thing that is going to trigger you from stopping to do it, right? Maybe you come home and the first thing is you throw down your keys and you sit on the couch and you click on the TV, right? Or there's a trigger, right? And so what you're trying to do is picture that time, right? Picture yourself walking through the door, picture yourself putting the keys down, picture yourself sitting on the couch and flicking on the TV, right? Now, visualize this whole thing processing through your head. And then right when you click on the TV, think to yourself, change. And then replay it with you doing exactly what you want to be doing, right? Instead of throwing your keys down, and walking to the couch, you walk to your bedroom and you throw your gym clothes on, right? Visualize this. This helps with that switch, right? To help you stop from going into the regular routine and breaking out of that routine, right? The emotional ignition on why you're trying to get out of this regular routine and program the subconscious, right? And so you find that this really helps with that, having that backstop. And then every time you start playing with it, there's more, again, the more you condition your mind, the easier it is to do these things and you realize that you close that gap essentially in that programming of your subconscious, right? And it helps you start achieving that daily objective. And so those are two ways I've found that have helped me become more aware of that daily objective that I need to be doing and how to execute and make it less of a stress to try to make that change. And you realize that by doing this, again, it's going to take a lot of work, right? It seems simple, and it is simple, but again, it's conditioning the subconscious. And you have to realize you have to be able to do that to be able to overcome the change that you want in your life, right? Because you're not going to break anything by going through the same routine and hoping and wishing. You have to realize that, again, this is your journey. No one is going to help you, right? You have to realize that this is a solo journey. Nothing is going to happen in your life that will change your life. You may have opportunities, but again, you have to be prepared to be able to take advantage of those opportunities. And putting yourself out there and doing these things, making these changes, making sure that you are taking responsibility on those decisions to change your life, what puts you in more opportunities. There is abundance of opportunities if you can change your perspective. And so, again, in doing this, this is what I have found to make it a lot easier for me to execute daily, right? To make sure that that daily objective is being met. And you realize that after a while, this becomes easier to do, right? Once you ingrain the system into the way you execute your goals, you realize that you start executing a lot more goals, right? Initially, it's going to be slow because you have to condition yourself to understand this part of the system and how you're going to be executing. You know the pieces, right? But it's, again, knowledge is power, but unless you are actually applying it, it means absolutely nothing, right? You can read every book in the world. Again, this is why I always say it's easier to ready, fire, then aim, and refine the system after the fact. Because if you sit and wait, you're going to procrastinate. Again, that's where thought comes in. Emotional backstop. Remember why you're doing this. Find that emotion. What's driving you to do this, right? Relive that moment. And tell yourself, I'm not going to live for this moment anymore, right? Because a lot of times you'll be in that moment at your weakest or at your best, and you realize that, hey, I need to make a change. This is a perspective shift. I need to make a change now, right? And sorry, I just lost train of thought, but but you have to make a change now, right? And so you're going to and all it's going to take is that daily objective, right? If you can meet that daily objective and make sure nothing else gets in the way, you're going to be selfish. You're going to make sure that daily objective is being met. Things will become a lot easier, right? It's slowly but surely you'll build up, whatever it is. If you're trying to build confidence, right? You got to go outside of your comfort zone. So maybe that's your daily objective. Make sure I go outside of my comfort zone. Why? Because I'm tired of the way I feel right now, right? Go relive that, right? Maybe you missed out on something. Maybe there was a pretty girl, right? You missed out. You missed out on that because of the fact that I didn't overstep my, I was not outside my comfort zone. I didn't push outside my comfort zone, right? And so you want to relive that. You want to relive that emotion. And then when that objective is coming up, and this is one of the biggest things too, is you feel so fearful of what the outcome is going to be. And your mind is a predicting machine, right? It tries to predict the outcome of everything, the path, and how to get to that, to get to where you want to get to that objective. And also the duration typically, right, of these things. Again, I'm kind of picking up on some things that I overheard by Dr. Andrew Huberman, right? He's a neuroscientist, and he has some great stuff. So I would highly suggest, if you're trying to understand about how the brain is programmed and how it works, he is again a great reference to get some of this information from. But again, you're trying to build that confidence, so you got to go outside your comfort zone, right? And you have to realize that you want to keep feeling that emotion. And yes, you will feel fearful, but again, it is all in your head, right? I remember even the simplest of things, right? Like when I was first starting out Discover Ignite, and I remember just trying to get a channel review. I was getting a channel review by a YouTuber, by a bigger YouTuber that does YouTube creator. And I was so fearful of it, and I don't even know why. Like, it made absolutely no sense to me, right? And I was like, am I going to live in fear, right? Or am I going to live in this emotion right now? Or am I going to overcome it right now by just clicking the mouse, just typing it and hitting enter and just doing it, right? Overcome that fear within a second, right? Do I want to live in that emotion for the rest of my life? Well, no, let's just change it. And the thing is too, is I know a lot of times I've even had this issue too, is like, you can be fearful of success, right? Because you don't know what success brings. And again, it goes back to that, your mind is a predicting machine, and the outcome, right, is success. You don't know what that looks like, right? If your brain doesn't know what it looks like, it's going to be fearful of it. And so again, it's just taking the system, right, and starting with your goals, breaking them down into daily objectives, being responsible for those objectives, making sure that they are being executed on a daily basis, having your backstop, your emotional ignition, and remembering why, right? Feel that emotion. You want to live that emotion, right? Because a lot of times, I think this is where I left off before, is the fact that, you get to a point where maybe you're low or you're high, particularly in your low points, when you're feeling like garbage, you're feeling useless, right? When you feel better, you're just happy you feel better. You don't want to relive that anymore. And a lot of times, right, I'm not saying that the emotion of anger and sadness, whatever you're going through during that time, is good to keep it going, but it's going to, again, ignite you to do those things that will change your life, right? And realize that you have to make the change to be able to do that. Find the emotion that's going to drive you. Let it drive you. Find a new emotion if you must, right? But keep it going. As soon as you get the ball rolling. Excuse me, I can't talk. As soon as you get the ball rolling, that is the hardest part, right? It's maintaining it is so much easier. You just have to get past that. Again, get past that fear, use that emotion. Again, nothing is going to change unless you change it, but you have to have that perspective shift, right? And remember why before you told yourself that you were going to change, but again, you never changed, right? You have to relive that moment. Why did you say you were going to change, right? Where did you leave off? Where did you leave off during that journey to where you dropped it, right? Relive that emotion. Why did you say you were going to change? And yet the change isn't still there, right? You got to go back to those times. And again, relive emotion ignition, and it will help. It will definitely help you get through this and try to execute it again, because it's one of the biggest things is trying to help people execute and giving perspective. And this is also why I'm starting the whole Discover Possibilities series, is because I want people to get a perspective shift, right? If you're not out there experiencing life, trying hard things, right? And that's one of the biggest things that will give you a perspective shift, is trying hard things, right? Failing and being okay with it, right? You get to a point where you're okay with failure. You have to be okay with failure. You have to be, right? Nobody gets it on the first time. Nobody gets it on the first time, right? There have been, so many success stories of thousands, right, of failed attempts, right? I've failed my way to success myself, right? But, the biggest thing is to not give up, because when you do give up is when, you could be 3 feet from gold, but you would never know because you gave up, right? When you were in that dark corner, where you were in that high of your life, right? At that time, you said, this is the last drop. I'm going to change, right? I'm not going to take it anymore. Somewhere along the way, you lost that, right? You could have been 3 feet from gold to make that one decision that you became responsible for to have changed your life, right? Butterfly effect. That's all it takes. It takes one small decision that you realize that, hey, I'm actually, I'm responsible for my life, right? Everything that's happened in your life up to this point has been because of a decision that you have made, nobody else. That's also something that is extremely important, is to realize that every decision you're in your life has got you to where you're at right now. And you should take responsibility for that. And whether you want to believe that or not, everything, we're all indifferent. We all come different from different walks of life. I totally understand that. My walk of life wasn't very easy, but compared to others, it may have been much easier, right? You have to realize there's always someone out there that's coming from different walks of life. And that's why what I try to do on Discover Ignite is try to have it to where it's general, because I realize that a lot of stuff has to be general. A lot of information has to be general, because you have to fit it to yourself. You have to realize that a lot of these things, step 3, 4, and 5, they will work up to step probably 2 or 3, but then you realize it's not working anymore. You have to realize that you have to take control and tweak it to fit your needs. And then you realize that you can continue on. Now, there was I wrote something on Twitter as well. You guys can follow me on Twitter. I do have all my links and stuff down in the description below of this live once I upload this, but I did put on there, take only the decision that changes your life seriously, then enjoy the rest of the ride, right? You have to realize that a lot of times we become too caught up and too serious about things in life. The only things you should be taking serious in life is the decisions, the ones that you're supposed to be responsible for. The rest of the time, have fun, right? Enjoy yourself. Everything I teach here, I'm not trying to teach to make you guys, so serious, take things so serious. Enjoy yourself along the way. You have to enjoy the journey, right? You have to realize that the journey is part of the experience, right? It's part of the human experience. Enjoy yourself, have fun, do those daily tasks, right? Once you break it down, once you break these big old goals down into a daily objective, right? It's so much easier, right? You try to simplify your system to where life isn't so stressful, right? And that was a thing too about what Dr. Andrew Huberman was talking about lighten the mutual stress, right? You have duration, path, and outcome. Your brain is trying to understand what the future has in store for it, right? And he says if you can dwindle it down to one of those, right? Is it going to be the duration, which I know a lot of us get caught up on the duration, right? Like we want it instantaneously, right? Or is it the path, right? Are you worried about how you're going to get there, right? You're going to get caught up on the path, the duration, man, it's gonna take a couple of years, right? Or man, I don't know how I'm going to get there from here, right? Or it's the outcome. A lot of times for me, it's been the outcome, right? I've eliminated the other two. The duration, I don't care how long it's going to take. The path, I don't care. I'll figure out a way. All I know is this is where I want to get, your end goal. And I know how to get there because I have daily tasks, right? I have daily objectives that I'm responsible for that I will make sure to execute because I want to get to here. Because I'm not going to just navigate in the dark, right? I know where I want to go. I did a little bit of pre-planning. I know where I want to go. So with that being said, that's pretty much what I got for today for Ignite Thursday, the first Ignite Thursday. I do appreciate you. 3 viewers are on here. I think I had 4 or 5 on here earlier, but nonetheless, just give you a quick update on the book. I'm at 1,847 words. It is a slow process. A lot of it I'm finding I'm researching stuff and looking back on stuff again, especially like with this particular piece, because again, I think you need a good starting point. Again, when I was doing the underdog experiment, I felt like I was kind of missing that. And again, when Ready, Fire, Aim, I started doing it and I was like, oh man, you know what? A lot of things that, and this is what's hard too, is right, you don't know what other people know, right? And so a lot of times you got to kind of paint the picture of what's worked for me. And hopefully that works for you. Again, giving you a framework, a system, trying to keep it as simple as possible. Again, tweak it to what's going to work for you. You have to understand you're going to have to tweak it, right? But it's, again, applying it, making sure what works. But this has worked for me. Doing this system has worked for me. And you realize, again, that once you get the first goal down, right, you realize that the next goals come a lot easier. And you can probably do a couple of different goals in parallel, right? And so that's what's important, is to realize just refine your system. Again, if it's the smallest of the things, right, you just want to be a better communicator. Well, okay, push yourself out of your comfort zone, right? Just a little bit every day. Maybe that's just talking to the person that bags your groceries, right? Maybe it's just saying hi and smiling to someone that walks by, right? Maybe that might give you a lot of anxiety, but you have to take the steps that essentially fit into your life, right? Because I am not walking in your shoes. I'm just trying to help guide you along that way, right? And so with that being said, I think that is pretty much what I got. Again, Andrew Huberman, he's a neuroscientist. He talks about the lightning, essentially the way your brain is functioning, right, and thinking about these goals, and you try to lighten the load so you can execute, right? So again, that being said, if you guys have any questions, I'll field some more questions. If not, again, if you guys would like to hit the like on the way out and share, if you would, be so kind. Also, if you guys would like me to do a video, remember that stuff is down in the description below. It doesn't look like I have any more questions. Again, thank you guys for showing up for the Ignite Thursday session. It's a blast. I like doing these lives. It gets me upfront and personal with you guys. I do enjoy that. I do miss not having the Monday session, but I do look forward to the Thursday session. So I hope you guys can make it for the next Thursday session. Again, thank you guys that have come. Appreciate your time. I know time is valuable, and just try to make it happen, guys. Again, trying to give you guys a system, trying to help you out. Hopefully I can provide you guys some good value tonight. And again, if you got any questions, you can always hit me up on an email, again, to do video responses for you guys. Till next time, till next Thursday. Actually, on Saturday, I have a new video coming out, so you guys can hopefully look for that one. And until next time, guys, take care and always improve yourself. And I will see you guys later.